We write every day. Writing can take a simple form such as daily texting to our friends and family to a more serious manner as in writing a report or essay to meet the deadlines. Then things can get a bit more complicated if it involves writing in a foreign language. There's no doubt that learners' biggest nightmare when learning a foreign language is writing itself. When talking about writing, at first we need to know every writing has 5 stages, which are pre-writing, then drafting, revising, editing, and finally publishing. In teaching, teacher doesn't teach students how to write, they teach them writing skills. So, what is teaching writing skill? Teaching writing skill is teaching all the sub-skills that help consolidate our writing. The skills can range from the scientific knowledge of nanotechnology to the very knowledge of how to put the punctuation marks. So, what teacher will be doing throughout the writing process of the students? Teacher will give students information that's relevant to the topic. This includes grammar, vocabulary, cohesion, coherence, or even genre analysis to better students' understanding about the genre they are going to write. While they are writing, teachers will go around and observe their progress and stop by to give 1 or 2 comments on their paragraphs or assist those who have difficulty completing their writing. And after the students are done with their writing, teacher will be the one to revise and give them feedback on how to improve their works. However, not everything goes smoothly as planned in writing classes. Just as speaking, students, especially the Asian, are reluctant in productive skills for fear of mistakes or wrongdoings. They usually consider writing to be hellishly hard and that there's nothing they could do to make them at least decent at writing. On being aware of that, at the beginning of the course, teachers should get students to familiarize themselves with writing by giving them easy and short texts on their enjoyable topics based on personal interest. In that way, they would want to engage in writing. Besides, teacher could try to get students into the writing habit by giving out these activities repeatedly until writing has become the norm in your classroom. In teaching writing skills, there are 5 classroom writing performances that are usually seen: imitative, intensive, self-writing, display writing, and real writing. At the beginning level of learning to write, students simply write down letters, words, and possibly sentences in order to learn the convention of the orthographic code. In recognition, students try to identify the phrases or the words. There can be some techniques included, such as find the letters that is different, letter and word matching, circle all the words you can find, and matching uppercase and lowercase letters. Or you may want to make students copy the words onto a paper sheet by hand. This technique is called copying. This can be considered an Asian technique, seeing as we have keyboard and autotype now, but still very much effective as students can make numerous mistakes writing the letters and words. Finally, we have dictation technique. It includes the teacher reading aloud a short passage, then reading it in segments, then repeat themselves for the 3rd time, and lastly checking students' responses. Writing is sometimes used as a production mode for learning, reinforcing, or testing grammatical concepts. This type of writing does not allow much creativity. A common form of controlled writing is to present a paragraph to students in which they have to alter a given structure throughout. For example, students need to change the tense of one paragraph, which means they will need to not only change the verb form, but also some time references. Another form of intensive writing is guided writing. Less control from teachers, but there still exist the stimulators. For example, teachers show a video and ask students to give their version of what happened in the video. One more form of controlled writing is dictocomp. In dictocomp, teachers read a passage 2 or 3 times, then let the students rewrite the passage based on their memory. Sometimes, to make it easier, teacher will write some keywords before reading the passage. A significant proportion of classroom writing may be devoted to self-writing, as known as writing with only the self in mind as an audience. This could include note-taking, diary, or journal. The last 2 writing performances could be recognized based on the knowledge that the audience of the writing has. Real writing is writing in which the reader does not know the answer to which the student is addressing. Display writing is writing that is primarily intended for the teacher who already knows the answer that the student is addressing. Examples of this type of writing include essays and other writing for the purpose of a summative assessment. In teaching writing skills, there are some principles that need to be kept in mind. First of all, as a teacher, you will plan to implement many techniques for teaching writing to your students, yet make sure that you have considered all the characteristics of effective writers before. Otherwise, that technique you use would not really create any impact. The role of the teacher as a guide and a responder in class is essential. Before a complete writing is formed, students involved in a composing process that requires multiple drafts and stages, which might at some point distract them from making a clear, well-organized, and effective final outcome. Therefore, it's the teacher's role to help their students maintain the balance between writing process and writing product. One more thing to focus on is the cultural or literary background of your students. Differences between students' culture and the English culture might confuse them when writing in English. Therefore, teachers should be ready to clarify those. And since it's clear that there's a connection between reading and writing, teacher could help students gain more insights on how text is constructed by encouraging the students to be more engaged with reading activities in the first hand. When students has acknowledged how truly English people write and how truly English culture is, teacher should try to provide more authentic writing texts. Simply means giving them more casual writing. It could be a task of writing a letter, a presentation script, or a resume. Besides, teachers should consider designing pre-writing, drafting, and revising stages for their students. Basically, in pre-writing, the brainstorming activity will help students come up with ideas, and these ideas should be written down in the next stage, so-called drafting. After all, the final stage of post-writing, students exchange opinions with their peers or their teachers to improve their work and correct mistakes. Talking of interaction between students and teachers in writing class, we notice that most of the time, students would closely interact with peers and teachers through many activities. Therefore, it's essential for a teacher to offer interactive techniques like group work, peer correcting, or brainstorming. And it is the teacher's responsibility to give students a chance to better themselves autonomously by letting them find out their own errors and correct themselves. In another way to say, teachers should be a facilitator in class. Last but not least, teachers should make sure students understand the formal properties of each writing genre. For example, in academic writing, there are properties like a clear thesis statement, the main ideas to elaborate the thesis, and supporting ideas to support the main ideas.